It seems a little odd to have All Saints' Day on Halloween. Halloween now mostly means horror films, which I hate, pumpkins, and trick-or-treating, which generally means a sugar rush for small children, which I think is probably the death of most parents, apart from anything else. That's what Halloween means today. But actually, it is a part of a season that actually encompasses Halloween, All Saints' Day, and All Souls' Day. And it's in the context of a church year and the changing seasons that, well, we just heard just now, if you heard that whoosh of wind out there, we know that we are at that point where autumn really bites. And Halloween, certainly in Celtic culture, pre-Christian Celtic culture, was very much 31st of October. I wish it wasn't 31st of August. We'd still have September to come. But at the end of October, it was the end of their harvest season, and probably a time of great fear, because it was a time of going into the depths of winter, which would have been a time of great peril. And it was a time when they believed the souls of the dead walked the earth. Very early on in the Christian calendar, in the time of Gregory, in about I think Gregory III, who's around about the 600s, All Saints' Day was declared for the 1st of November. And then a few centuries later was added All Souls' Day, which is a Christian day for remembering the dead. And it's not really surprising, given how humankind works, that sort of some of this Celtic Samhain festival got absorbed into the whole thing. But I think the key thing for us is it's a moment when life and death become really close, and we can see the linkages between the then, the now, and the what is to come. And that's what I want to think a little bit about. But first of all, a little brief one on All Saints' Day. I just thought, what does All Saints' Day mean? What do we think about on All Saints' Day? And we think about saints. Saints you may or may not have heard of. And a name came to mind when I was thinking about it. St. Boniface. Any ideas what St. Boniface did?
Converted the Germans?
Yes! I knew Father Mark would know. so way back there, actually, around the time of Gregory III as well, similar timing. So St. Bridget, there are actually two of them, one in Ireland and one in Sweden. They were both nuns, and they both lived holy lives and were remembered for that. Going up the food chain a bit, St. Teresa of Avila. Very important.
Yes, tried to get the Pope back into Rome.
Well, among other things, yes, and her writings are still looked at today. St. Ignatius of Loyola, founded the Jesuits, and teaching that comes forward today. And then there's the A-listers, St. Andrew, St. Paul, and the Apostles. We tend to think of the saints as something different from us. People different from us, of a sort of a different order of human being. And I think as human beings, we obviously think of time as linear and think of them as part of the past. But the teaching of the church is also that they are part of that whole company of heaven. And that's the way I like to think of the saints who were, the saints who are, which includes every single one of us, and the saints who are to come. So rather than just focusing on them as exemplars of a great Christian life and wondering how we can ever measure up, let's think how we are part of that stream of time We stand on the shoulders of giants, those giants, but also the giants who worshipped here day after day and year after year throughout the centuries in this very church. When we look back, history can be a historic story. It can be just remembering, or we can do something that I've started to think of as remembering forward, which might sound like a slightly odd phrase, and you might hear it again in 2 weeks' time when I'm preaching at remembrance, because this whole idea of remembering forward, of taking the past, bringing it into the present and making it reality for the future is, I think, something that is really profound. In the story we just heard in John's Gospel of Lazarus being raised from the dead, actually Jesus was remembering forward. It wasn't just a wonderful story about him raising Lazarus from the dead. It was actually him looking forward to his own resurrection, when he would rise not to die again as Lazarus did in linear time, but a resurrection that is for all time and that will be fulfilled ultimately when he comes again, which is a further remembering forward. A time that was past, but that is still to come. He was taking actions which resonated then, had an impact then, but also resonated into the future. He wasn't just remembering his salvation as part of the Jewish people in his humanity. He was remembering forward into the salvation that would be for all people. When we think about the saints that we've just thought about, the reason they're remembered is that their faith built up the people that they were there with then, so much so that they were remembered. I mean, we are their future, and without the past that they lived as they're now, we would not be here. When we think about ourselves as part of that whole company of heaven, we shouldn't just look back and celebrate lives past. Most of us here, quite frankly, not all, but most, have more to look back on than we have to look forward to. But we are here now so that those who are yet to come can have faith. We can remember forward by living our lives for the now and for the future, not just looking back in either self-congratulation or regret or nostalgia. We can remember forward in hope for the future, like those saints, those giants of faith on whose shoulders we stand. What we do now should be for the benefit not just of ourselves and our faith in glorifying God, but should be for the benefit of those future generations. Something that resonates so much, actually, as we stand here on the eve of COP26, but also as we think about our church and our congregation and the future faith that we want to bring to others. Our faith choices now have the ability to profoundly affect the future in a way that enables that future. Maybe all our choices this All Saints' Day should be preceded by the question, what does this do for the saints that are to come? I leave you to ponder that.